So hello and welcome to a rather different video from me, because instead of covering something to do with gaming like I usually do, I'm going to go out my zone and cover something completely different, and that is a weird, seemingly lost, creepy anti-piracy method. So I first heard of this when Shy Valley briefly covered it in one of his Lost Media videos many years ago, but he didn't really go over it much per se. He was just reading the Reddit post word for word, and a couple of comments that were made on the post as well. And upon hearing about this, I instantly got interested in this weird anti-piracy measure. And as far as I'm aware, nobody's actually done a proper full in-depth video on this, so I thought I might as well do something. So to sum it up, a Redditor named Opti101 remembers that their dad used to pirate a lot of software, and one day his dad was pirating some software while he was playing with his Lego. And upon entering the serial key, the computer reportedly shouted, "It's not nice to steal shareware, you know." And then the web browser automatically opened to an eerie black web page with nothing but "Pato is here" scrawled onto it. The OP remembers their dad was trying to close the web page, but claims the Pato is here is what stuck with them the most, and did put up a recreation of what he believed, or at least memorised, the page to look like. And I did a bit of digging on this one myself a few years ago, because legitimately weird, creepy anti-piracy methods are like crack to me. Not those shitty jump scare mock-up ones we see nowadays, but I mean real anti-piracy methods. Now, scary anti-piracy methods were a somewhat common anti-piracy method back in the day. Unlike today, where DRM stops you from playing games without an internet connection, scareware was purely designed to instill fear into you. Many of them were not jump scares or screamers or anything like that, but they were often noticed as telling you that the program knows it's been pirated and you've been reported to the police. Which is what happened to me when I first tried pirating some software when I was about 11 or so, which is probably why I have an interest in this. So an anti-piracy method that shouts at you and then opens up a creepy web page isn't too far out of the ordinary. But the question is, what did I come across? Now, before we get into what I found, I just want to clarify that none of this is actual confirmation of what this supposed software even is. This is just kind of what I believe it might be, a bit of a Lost Media investigation of my own. Anyway, I took a look at some of the information the OP provided and looked at some of the possible software, these being DVD rippers on Apple Mac OS X around the mid-2000s, and also mentions its shareware. And I came across 4 softwares that actually hit all of these points, these being DVD Decryptor, PavTube DVD Ripper, Aimersoft DVD Ripper, and Mac the Ripper. Now, the one that piqued my interest the most was Mac the Ripper, because this one seemed to stick out like a sore thumb. The program itself is shareware, which is what the OP claims the anti-piracy method shouted. The developers appear to be a bit more independent than others like PavTube and Aimersoft. Plus, Mac the Ripper has been circulating since at least Mac OS X Jaguar, which was about 2002, which also fits in what the OP says about early Mac OS X. And the site itself also hasn't been updated since 2013. Now, a few years ago I did actually comment in the Reddit thread about these softwares, and the OP did say that Mac the Ripper does ring a bell, so possibly on the right path. It might be, it might not be. But when I was looking at Mac the Ripper, the latest versions of the software are not available for public use, with only the last public version being 2.6.6 for Mac OS X Snow Leopard and older. The other versions for Mac OS X Mountain Lion and newer are just not available at all. It seems the developers behind Mac the Ripper are very picky on who is actually allowed to use their software. Because unlike software today where you either input a key or you basically pay via a subscription or whatever, you have to follow this ultra precise guide on how to acquire a license. It's almost like they don't want you to buy this software. And they even give you a list of alternative software to use as well. Now, I'm far from a shrewd businessman, but I can't imagine this is a very successful business tactic, where you flat out tell people, don't buy our software, use this instead. And it more than likely means that you won't find any of this software in many circles at all, public or private. And this really sticks out to me. I know I've said that a lot, but it does, because when you have to jump through so many hoops to get a license, it implies that it's much more easier to keep an eye on circulating licenses on pirated releases. And the reason I say that is because in the early 2000s, pirated materials often came bundled with the CD key you needed to input anyway. Plus, on their site they do actually have an anti-piracy warning. It's not Pato is here, it's just one of Bomberman telling you not to copy DVDs you don't own. So there is something pertaining to anti-piracy here. But the question is, if this piracy warning came from Mac the Ripper, wouldn't there be more people who knew about it? Now, it is not uncommon for people to trigger anti-piracy methods because they installed something wrong. But this stuff is often well documented, like you can go and look up genuine anti-piracy methods that kick in. But to be fair on this one, most anti-piracy methods tend to be for gaming more so than software. Because with gaming anti-piracy, developers often throw a curveball during gameplay, as a way to make you think you've pirated the game, and then something happens that makes the game completely unplayable. I'm going to sound really cliche when I go over this, but it's stuff like Batman and the purposely botched glide controls, or Gmod's polygon normals error, where it gives you an error which is actually your Steam ID. So if you were to post it on a forum saying I got this polygon normals error, you basically admitted I pirated the game. The thing with software anti-piracy is it often just disables itself, or it tells you it knows you've pirated it and just won't work again. Compared to gaming anti-piracy methods, software is very just one-off, I'd say. So you can kind of see the differences between gaming anti-piracy and software anti-piracy. Plus I imagine there's more people out there who are interested in gaming than there are just, DVD ripping software. Another thing is macOS 10 piracy is much smaller than piracy on Windows due to the user base size, especially in the 2000s. In fact, if we go all the way to the end of the 2000s, these of course being like 2009, 2010, macOS only had a 4% market share versus 95% of that on Windows. Now that's not to say there isn't a piracy scene on Mac, because there is one, but the scene is way more smaller and way more niche than Windows, which could mean that this may have been a very, very obscure kind of release. Now another thing to note as well is piracy sites themselves get taken down all the time. Like regardless of whatever your views on piracy are, a lot of rights holders don't want their films, games or software being distributed for free. They want you to pay. So while piracy sites are up, they tend to get taken down all the time. Of course others spring up, but you get the point. Now another thing is in 2005 macOS was transitioning from PowerPC to Intel, and as such newer software refused to run on PowerPC versions of macOS because it needed Intel, which I'm assuming may have also threw the piracy scene for a loop. And the reason I say that is because I know exactly how dim-witted some people are when it comes to technology. They'll flat out state in the description or whatever, this will only work on Intel Macs, it won't work on PowerPC, and you're still going to have people using PowerPC who are going to download the Intel versions and then wonder why it doesn't work. Now it could also be that the torrent for the software, assuming it is Mac the Ripper, was removed due to complaints. People want free software, and software that doesn't work means unhappy people. Unhappy people are more likely to report it and leave bad comments. Bad comments are more likely to catch the eye of moderators and they step in and stuff gets removed. But another question is, who or what is Pato? Well, the word Pato has a lot of links to Spanish history and culture. It means duck in Spanish apparently, and it's also a sport played on horseback in Argentina. Now it's also interesting to note that in South America at least, piracy is still extremely rampant and very common. Now something interesting I've thought about is, what if this supposed anti-piracy method wasn't anti-piracy, but instead just a pirate group signature? Now I know it's not the same, but often on some pirated PlayStation 1 games back in the day, pirate groups would change the startup screens to feature the group's name, with a different logo. So there could be a small chance that whoever distributed the pirated software had the web page open up to their site. After all, if you're pleased with this software, why not check out what other things they've got on offer? And it could explain why the page supposedly said Pato is here, with Pato being the pirate or pirate group's name. And as for the speaker shading it's not nice to steal, it may just be a coincidence. As for my own experiences with pirating, the OP's dad may have chosen to automatically run the software straight after it installed, and the serial key was probably known to be blacklisted, but that's just kind of my small investigation into the whole Pato is here anti-piracy. Let me know what you think of this down below, thank you for watching and have a great day.